Don't skip, your soulmate is secretly testing your love right now. Don't scroll, stay till the end, because this message is for you and your heart needs this right now, and I want you to pause and feel why these words pulled you in at this exact moment, because timing like this is never random and what you're sensing lately isn't imagination, it's awareness, and listen to this carefully, because the universe is speaking softly but directly to you right now, not to create fear, but to bring clarity, and if things have felt quieter, slower, or slightly uncertain in your connection, that is not distance, that is discernment unfolding, and this message is for you because your soulmate is in a moment of observation, not to judge you, not to manipulate you, but to understand whether love with you feels safe enough to choose fully, and your heart needs this right now because real love does not test through chaos, it tests through calm, it watches how you show up when reassurance is not constant, how you love when the outcome isn't guaranteed, how your energy moves when there is space instead of intensity, and don't scroll, because this is where many people misunderstand what's happening. They assume silence means fading interest, but in soul connections silence often means evaluation, reflection, and emotional measurement, and listen to this, your soulmate has been hurt before, not lightly, but deeply, and that history has taught them to be careful with their heart, to observe patterns instead of promises, to feel before they leap, and loving you has brought them to a crossroads where they are asking themselves, is this love steady, or will it disappear when things get real? And your heart needs this right now because the universe is not asking you to prove anything, it is asking you to remain authentic, grounded, and calm, and don't scroll, because the way you handle this moment is shaping what comes next more than any dramatic declaration ever could, and listen to this carefully. They are watching how you respond to uncertainty, not whether you demand clarity, but whether you hold your own peace, not whether you chase reassurance, but whether you trust yourself, and that observation is not cruel, it is protective, because they are trying to decide if loving you will heal them or reopen old wounds, and your heart needs this right now because you've been learning how to love without losing yourself, how to stay present without overextending, how to care without collapsing into anxiety, and that growth is exactly what is being felt on the other side, and don't scroll, because the spiritual layer of this is important. Soulmate connections are guided, not rushed, and when timing isn't right, the universe creates pauses so alignment can catch up with emotion. And listen to this, angel numbers may have been appearing around you lately, 222 when you wonder if balance will ever arrive, 444 when you feel protected even in uncertainty, 11 when thoughts of them surface unexpectedly, and these are not warnings, they are confirmations that you are being guided through this phase, not tested to fail, and your heart needs this right now because this phase is not about passing or failing, it's about revealing truth, and truth shows itself through consistency, not intensity, and don't scroll, because this is also about how your soulmate is testing love quietly, not with games, not with jealousy, but with space, watching if your kindness remains when validation is delayed, watching if your respect stays intact when answers aren't immediate, watching if your energy stays warm instead of reactive, and listen to this carefully, love that can survive uncertainty without turning into pressure is love that can survive real life, and your heart needs this right now because you've experienced connections where love demanded constant reassurance, constant proof, constant emotional labor, and this one is different, it's asking for steadiness, not sacrifice, and don't scroll, because the universe is also testing something within you, not your worth, but your self-trust, testing whether you will abandon yourself to secure love or remain aligned and let love meet you where you stand, and listen to this, Remaining aligned does not mean being cold or distant, it means being present without performing, caring without chasing, open without overexposing. And your heart needs this right now because you are learning that calm. Love is not boring, it is mature, and maturity is what soulmate connections require to last. And don't scroll, because this message is also about the emotional tension you may be feeling, the part of you that wants clarity now and the part of you that feels strangely calm despite not having it. And listen to this carefully. That calm is intuition. That calm is your higher self saying, "You are safe even here." And your heart needs this right now because intuition always feels quieter than fear. But it is far more reliable. And don't scroll, because this testing phase is temporary. It is a bridge, not a destination, and bridges are meant to be crossed, not camped on, and the way you cross matters, not by rushing, not by forcing answers, but by staying grounded in who you are. And listen to this, your soulmate is feeling your energy more than your words right now, feeling whether love around you feels peaceful or pressurized, expansive or demanding, and your heart needs this right now. Because peace is the answer they are subconsciously seeking. And don't scroll, because the universe is preparing a shift, when observation turns into decision, when hesitation turns into intention, but that shift happens naturally when safety is felt, not when pressure is applied. And listen to this carefully. Safety is created when you allow love to breathe, when you trust timing instead of fighting it, when you stay kind to yourself instead of overanalyzing every pause. And your heart needs this right now because you've learned that forcing clarity often destroys it, while patience allows it to reveal itself cleanly. And don't scroll, because this is also about releasing the urge to test them back, to withdraw to see if they notice, to play emotional chess. And listen to this, soulmate love does not require strategy, it requires sincerity, and sincerity always wins in the end. And your heart needs this right now because you are not meant to become guarded to be chosen, you are meant to remain whole, and wholeness is magnetic. And don't scroll, because the universe is watching too, watching how you treat yourself in uncertainty, whether you spiral into self-doubt or anchor into self-respect. And listen to this carefully, self-respect is the foundation of every lasting connection, and this phase is strengthening that foundation in you. And your heart needs this right now because what is being built here is not a fleeting moment, it is a relationship that can stand when emotions fluctuate, when life gets real, when fantasy fades and commitment remains. And don't scroll, because this is the cliffhanger the universe leaves you with today. The test is not about how much you love, it's about how safely you love, not about intensity, but about integrity. And listen to this, if you remain steady, authentic, and aligned, the testing will end without you even noticing. And what follows will feel like clarity, not chaos, like intention, not uncertainty. And your heart needs this right now because you are not being tested to be hurt, you are being tested to be trusted, and trust is the doorway through which Real's soulmate love finally steps forward. Don't scroll, stay with me, because what I'm about to share now goes deeper into what's really happening beneath the surface, and your heart needs this right now even if you're trying to stay calm on the outside, because this message is for you in the middle of a quiet but powerful turning point. And listen to this carefully, your soulmate's testing is not about doubt in you, it's about fear within them, fear shaped by past disappointments, broken trust, and moments where love once promised safety but delivered pain instead. And loving you has awakened something so real inside them that it scares them, not because you are unsafe, but because you matter enough to change the course of their life. And don't scroll, because this is where many people misunderstand soulmate energy. They think tests are about control or games, but in spiritual connections tests are about reassurance, reassurance that love can exist without chaos, reassurance that closeness doesn't mean losing oneself, reassurance that vulnerability won't be punished. And listen to this, your soulmate is watching how you hold yourself when things are unclear, how you treat them when answers are delayed, how you treat yourself when certainty isn't handed to you, and your heart needs this right now because you may have felt moments of confusion, moments where you wondered if you should pull back or push forward, but the universe is guiding you to stay centered, not reactive, and don't scroll, because the testing phase is subtle. It happens in the pauses between messages, in the tone of conversations, in how you respond to silence, and listen to this carefully. Silence is not rejection here, it is observation. They are noticing whether your care turns into anxiety, whether your affection turns into pressure, whether your love remains respectful even when it's not immediately reciprocated. And your heart needs this right now because you've lived through connections where love was proven through intensity, through constant contact, through emotional highs and lows, and this connection is teaching you something new, that love can be quiet and still be deep, that attraction can be steady and still be powerful. And don't scroll, because your soulmate is also testing themselves, testing whether they can stay present instead of running, testing whether they can tolerate emotional closeness without sabotaging it, testing whether they can communicate honestly instead of hiding behind distance. And listen to this, loving you has brought them face to face with their own emotional patterns, and patterns don't break easily, they resist change before they release it, and your heart needs this right now because resistance does not mean rejection. It often means growth is happening, and growth is uncomfortable before it becomes freeing. And don't scroll, because the spiritual side of this test matters. The universe often places space between two aligned souls to see if trust can form without constant reassurance. And listen to this carefully, trust built in silence is stronger than trust built in noise, because it is chosen, not enforced. And your heart needs this right now because you're learning to trust yourself even when outcomes aren't guaranteed, and that self-trust is exactly what allows soulmate love to deepen without fear. And don't scroll, because angel numbers may have been showing up during this phase to remind you that you're protected. 44 appearing when doubt creeps in, 222 appearing when balance feels uncertain, 33 appearing when you feel emotionally overwhelmed, and these signs are not telling you to act, they're telling you to stay grounded, to breathe, to let alignment work. And listen to this, the universe is not asking you to shrink your feelings, it's asking you to regulate them, because regulated love feels safe, and safety is what your soulmate is searching for. And your heart needs this right now because safety does not come from perfection. It comes from consistency, and consistency is what you are being invited to embody. And don't scroll, because this message is also about how your soulmate feels your energy more than your words right now. They sense whether you are peaceful or panicked, open or guarded, trusting or controlling. And listen to this carefully, energy never lies, and your energy has been speaking volumes, even in silence. And your heart needs this right now because you've been learning to choose calm over chaos, to pause instead of react, to observe instead of assume, and that maturity is being felt, even if it's not verbally acknowledged yet. And don't scroll, because this testing phase is temporary, it is not meant to last forever, it exists to build confidence, not to drain you. And listen to this. Once your soulmate feels that love with you does not come with pressure or emotional volatility, something shifts, observation turns into decision, hesitation turns into intention. And your heart needs this right now because you may be closer to that shift than you think. And don't scroll, because the universe is also testing something within you, testing whether you will abandon your self-respect to secure reassurance, or whether you will remain whole and let love meet you at your level. And listen to this carefully: remaining whole is not indifference, it is strength, and strength is attractive because it signals stability. And your heart needs this right now because stability is what makes long-term love possible. And don't scroll. Because this message is also asking you not to create stories in the gaps, not to assume worst-case scenarios, not to fill silence with fear. And listen to this: fear speaks loudly, intuition speaks softly, and the calm voice inside you telling you to stay steady is the one to trust. And your heart needs this right now because intuition aligns you, fear exhausts you. And don't scroll, because this testing phase is not about proving devotion. It's about demonstrating emotional maturity, and maturity shows up as patience, respect, grounded communication, and the ability to let things unfold without force. And listen to this carefully: forcing clarity often pushes people away, while allowing clarity invites them closer. And your heart needs this right now because you've learned that chasing love never creates safety, but allowing love to breathe does. And don't scroll, because your soulmate is noticing whether you honor boundaries without resentment, whether you give space without withdrawing love, whether you remain kind even when you're unsure. And listen to this: kindness under uncertainty is rare, and rare things are treasured. And your heart needs this right now because you are being valued not for what you demand, but for how you show up. And don't scroll, because the universe is preparing the moment when the test ends naturally, without announcement, without drama, simply because safety has been felt. And listen to this carefully: when that moment arrives, it won't feel like a victory, it will feel like relief, like ease, like something finally settling. And your heart needs this right now because relief is the sign of alignment. And don't scroll, because this message is also reminding you that you are not on trial, you are being witnessed. And being witnessed is an honor, because it means your presence matters, your energy matters, your way of loving matters. And listen to this: not everyone is tested at the soulmate level, only those whose love has the potential to last. And your heart needs this right now because you are not being tested to be rejected, you are being tested to be trusted, and trust is the doorway to everything you've been hoping for. And don't scroll, because this is the quiet cliffhanger the universe leaves you with now. The observation is still happening, but so is the softening, so is the opening, so is the decision forming in their heart. And you don't need to rush it, control it, or prove anything, because the way you are showing up right now, grounded, authentic, and calm, is already answering the question they're afraid to ask. And your heart needs this right now because love that passes this test doesn't arrive loudly, it arrives securely, and security is what makes soulmate love real, sustainable, and safe. Don't scroll, stay with me, because what I'm about to share now is where the meaning of this quiet test becomes unmistakably clear. And your heart needs this right now even if you've been trying to stay strong and composed, because this message is for you at a moment when love is being evaluated not by words, but by energy, not by promises, but by presence. And listen to this carefully: the testing you're experiencing is not random, it's purposeful, because soulmate connections are not built on impulse, they are built on emotional safety. And safety is something that can only be felt over time, in pauses, in uncertainty, in moments where nothing dramatic happens and yet everything is revealed. And don't scroll, because this is where the universe is asking you to understand a deeper truth: your soulmate is not testing whether you love them, they already feel that. They are testing whether love with you feels steady enough to stand on, whether it calms their nervous system or activates old fears, whether it invites growth or triggers defense, and your heart needs this right now because you may have been questioning yourself, wondering if you're doing too much or not enough. But listen to this: love that is right does not require you to perform, it asks you to remain consistent, authentic, and grounded, and that is exactly what is being observed. And don't scroll, because this test is unfolding in subtle ways. In how you respond when plans are uncertain, in how you communicate when answers are delayed, in how you hold your boundaries without anger. And listen to this carefully: boundaries expressed calmly are one of the strongest signals of emotional maturity, and emotional maturity is what soulmate love requires to survive real life. And your heart needs this right now because you've grown past relationships that thrived on intensity but collapsed under responsibility. And this connection is showing you a new pattern, one where love deepens through calm instead of chaos. And don't scroll, because your soulmate has been paying close attention to how you manage your inner world during this phase, whether you spiral into fear or anchor into self-trust, whether you fill silence with assumptions or allow space with grace. And listen to this: grace under uncertainty is rare, and rare qualities are what create lasting bonds. And your heart needs this right now because you are learning that your worth is not measured by how hard you chase love, but by how peacefully you can hold it. And don't scroll, because the spiritual layer of this test is active. The universe often places aligned souls in moments of pause to see if trust can grow without constant reassurance. And listen to this carefully: trust that is chosen freely is stronger than trust that is demanded, and your soulmate is feeling whether trust can exist here without pressure. And your heart needs this right now because you've learned that forcing closeness often creates distance, while allowing space invites sincerity. And don't scroll, because angel numbers may have been appearing during this phase as gentle reminders that you are supported. For 44 showing up when anxiety tries to creep in, reminding you that you are protected. 222 appearing when balance feels off, signaling that alignment is still active. 11 surfacing when thoughts of them arrive unexpectedly, affirming that this connection is divinely guided. And these signs are not asking you to act, they are asking you to stay centered, to trust the process, to remain emotionally regulated. And your heart needs this right now because regulation is what creates safety, and safety is what your soulmate is seeking, even if they can't articulate it yet. And don't scroll, because this test is also about how you treat yourself in uncertainty. Whether you become self-critical, whether you doubt your intuition, whether you shrink your needs to avoid rocking the boat. And listen to this: soulmate love does not require self-abandonment, it requires self-respect, and self-respect is magnetic, because it signals stability. And your heart needs this right now because stability is what allows love to grow without fear. And don't scroll, because your soulmate is also testing their own capacity here, testing whether they can sit with vulnerability instead of escaping it, whether they can tolerate closeness without sabotaging it, whether they can communicate honestly instead of hiding behind distance. And listen to this carefully: when someone has been hurt before, their instinct is to protect themselves by pulling away, and choosing not to pull away is a form of courage, and loving you has required that courage. And your heart needs this right now because resistance does not mean rejection, resistance often means something important is being protected until it feels safe enough to move forward. And don't scroll, because this message is also about the tension you may feel between wanting clarity and sensing calm. And listen to this: that calm is not indifference, it is intuition. Intuition that knows this moment is not about forcing answers but about allowing truth to reveal itself naturally. And your heart needs this right now because intuition always speaks quietly, while fear shouts, and the quiet voice inside You saying, "Stay steady," is the one aligned with truth, and don't scroll, because the universe is also inviting you to notice how you are changing through this test, how you are becoming more patient, more discerning, less reactive, more trusting of yourself, and listen to this carefully. These changes are not side effects, they are the purpose, because soulmate love is not just about connection, it is about evolution. And your heart needs this right now because you are evolving into someone who can hold love without losing themselves. And don't scroll, because this test is temporary, it is a threshold, not a permanent state, and thresholds exist to mark readiness, not to punish waiting. And listen to this, once readiness is felt on both sides, the test dissolves quietly, without announcement, without drama, simply because it is no longer needed. And your heart needs this right now because you may be closer to that moment than you think. And don't scroll, because the way forward is not through proving devotion, not through demanding reassurance, but through staying emotionally available while remaining grounded. And listen to this carefully, availability without desperation is one of the clearest signals of secure love, and your soulmate is noticing that, even if they haven't said it yet. And your heart needs this right now because you are learning that love does not require you to be on edge. It invites you to be at ease. And don't scroll, because this message is also reminding you not to create narratives in the gaps, not to assume worst outcomes, not to replay scenarios that haven't happened. And listen to this, imagination fueled by fear distorts reality, while presence clarifies it. And your heart needs this right now because presence keeps you aligned with truth. And don't scroll, because this test is also revealing whether love between you feels collaborative or competitive. Whether it feels like two people walking side by side or one person trying to pull the other forward. And listen to this carefully, soulmate love is collaborative, it moves together, it pauses together, it grows together. And your heart needs this right now because you are no longer meant to drag love forward by effort alone. And don't scroll, because your soulmate is feeling whether you honor their pace without resentment, whether you allow space without withdrawing care, whether you remain kind without expectation. And listen to this, kindness under uncertainty is powerful, because it signals emotional safety, and safety is the foundation of everything that comes next. And your heart needs this right now because you are being evaluated not on perfection, but on presence, not on intensity, but on integrity. And don't scroll, because the universe is also watching how you anchor into your own life during this test, whether you stay engaged with your purpose, your joy, your growth, or whether you put everything on hold waiting for clarity. And listen to this carefully, love that is meant to walk with you does not ask you to stop living, it meets you while you are alive and aligned. And your heart needs this right now because alignment is what attracts clarity. And don't scroll, because this phase is teaching you something sacred, that you do not need to become smaller, louder, colder, or more guarded to be chosen. You only need to remain yourself, regulated, respectful, and real. And listen to this, remaining yourself is the greatest act of trust you can offer. And your heart needs this right now because trust is what ends the test. And don't scroll, because this is the quiet cliffhanger the universe leaves you with now. The observation is still happening, but so is the softening, so is the internal decision forming, so is the realization that love with you does not feel dangerous, it feels steady. And when that realization lands fully, the test will end without announcement. And what follows will feel like ease, clarity, and intention. Not because you forced it, but because you passed by simply being who you are. And your heart needs this right now because you are not being tested to be rejected, you are being tested to be trusted. And trust is the doorway through which Real's soulmate love finally steps forward. Don't scroll, stay with me, because what I'm about to share now is where the quiet test turns into a revelation, and your heart needs this right now even if you've been telling yourself to stay neutral and not expect too much, because this message is for you at a moment when love is being measured in ways the mind can't calculate, and listen to this carefully. Your soulmate is no longer just observing your reactions. They are feeling the atmosphere of love around you, the emotional climate you create when things are uncertain, the steadiness you bring when answers aren't immediate, and that atmosphere is answering questions they've been afraid to ask out loud. And don't scroll, because this phase is not about catching you doing something wrong, it's about discovering whether love with you feels like peace or pressure. And your heart needs this right now because peace is rare for someone who has known disappointment, inconsistency, or emotional whiplash, and loving you has brought them to a place where they want calm more than intensity, safety more than excitement, and truth more than fantasy. And listen to this, the universe is allowing space here so that your soulmate can feel the difference without distraction, without constant communication clouding the signal, without emotional noise drowning out intuition. And don't scroll, because this space is doing important work. It is showing them how you hold yourself when love isn't loud, how you care without clinging, how you stay kind without demanding proof, and that is powerful, because love that feels safe in silence is love that can survive real life. And your heart needs this right now because you've experienced connections that only felt alive when they were intense, and you're learning now that intensity is not the same as depth, and depth grows best in stillness. And listen to this carefully, your soulmate is also testing their own readiness in this moment, testing whether they can sit with uncertainty without running, whether they can allow feelings to deepen without sabotaging them, whether they can choose courage over old defense mechanisms. And loving you has made those questions unavoidable, and that's why this phase feels heavy and light at the same time. Heavy because something important is at stake, light because something honest is forming. And don't scroll, because this message is also about how you are being guided spiritually through this test. Angel numbers may have been appearing when your thoughts drift toward them, not to rush you, but to reassure you. For 44 reminding you that you are protected even in ambiguity. 222 signaling that balance is still active even when timing feels off. 1. 11 appearing when intuition speaks louder than fear, and these signs are not instructions to act, they are anchors to keep you grounded. And your heart needs this right now because grounding prevents you from spiraling into stories that aren't real. And don't scroll, because your soulmate is noticing how you handle your inner world during this pause, whether you become self-critical, whether you doubt your worth, whether you abandon your needs to secure closeness. And listen to this, soulmate. Love does not require self-erasure, it requires self-respect. And self-respect is one of the clearest signals of emotional safety, and your heart needs this right now because safety is what allows love to move forward without fear. And don't scroll, because the test is also revealing whether love between you feels collaborative or conditional, whether it feels like two people walking together or one person trying to prove themselves worthy. And listen to this carefully, love that is meant to last never feels like an audition, it feels like recognition, and recognition happens when you remain yourself under pressure. And your heart needs this right now because remaining yourself has not always been easy for you in love, and yet here you are, learning how to stay aligned even when clarity is delayed. And don't scroll, because this message is also about the subtle ways your soulmate is being affected by your steadiness. They feel it when you don't rush them. They feel it when you respect space without withdrawing warmth. They feel it when you don't turn uncertainty into accusation. And listen to this, that kind of emotional intelligence is rare, and rare qualities change people. and your heart needs this right now because you may not realize how deeply your calm is influencing their decision, and don't scroll, because the universe is also watching how you treat yourself during this test. Whether you stay engaged with your life, your purpose, your joy, or whether you put everything on hold waiting for someone else's clarity, and listen to this carefully, love that is meant to walk with you does not ask you to stop living, it meets you in motion, and your heart needs this right now because staying engaged with your life keeps you aligned, and alignment attracts honesty, and don't scroll, because this phase is also teaching you how to regulate emotion instead of suppressing it, to acknowledge longing without letting it control you, to feel curiosity without feeding anxiety, and listen to this, emotional regulation is not emotional distance, it is emotional maturity, and maturity is what soulmate connections require to thrive beyond the honeymoon stage, and your heart needs this right now because you've seen what happens when love lacks maturity, and you are no longer willing to repeat that cycle, and don't scroll, because your soulmate is noticing whether you can hold love without making it heavy, whether your affection feels like an invitation or an obligation, whether your presence feels supportive or demanding, and listen to this carefully, love that invites rather than demands is love that people lean into willingly, and your heart needs this right now because leaning in cannot be forced, it must feel safe, and don't scroll, because this message is also about releasing the urge to interpret every small shift as a sign of danger, not every pause is a problem. Not every delay is a rejection, and listen to this, discernment requires patience, and patience allows truth to surface without distortion, and your heart needs this right now because rushing interpretation often leads to unnecessary pain, and don't scroll, because this test is also a mirror, showing you how far you've come, how you no longer panic at silence the way you once did, how you no longer chase reassurance at the expense of dignity, how you no longer confuse intensity with intimacy. And listen to this carefully, that growth is not accidental, it is preparation, and preparation always precedes blessing, and your heart needs this right now because you are becoming someone who can hold love without fear, and don't scroll, because the universe is also preparing the moment when this test dissolves. Not with an announcement, not with drama, but with a shift in energy, when conversation flows more easily, when intention becomes clearer, when effort becomes mutual, and listen to this. That shift will feel like relief, not triumph, like ease, not excitement, and your heart needs this right now because ease is the sign of alignment, and don't scroll, because this message is also asking you not to test them back, not to withdraw to see if they notice, not to create distance to protect yourself, and listen to this, protection through games creates confusion, protection through self-respect creates clarity, and your heart needs this right now because clarity is what ends the test, and don't scroll, because the universe is guiding you to stay soft without being naive, open without being unguarded, loving without being self-sacrificing, and listen to this carefully, that balance is rare, and rare balances are what soulmate love requires to endure, and your heart needs this right now because you are learning that love does not have to hurt to be real, and don't scroll, because this phase is not meant to drain you, it is meant to strengthen you, to show you that you can remain steady even when answers are delayed. And listen to this, steadiness is not passivity, it is confidence, and confidence is deeply attractive because it signals emotional safety, and your heart needs this right now because safety is what your soulmate is looking for, even if they can't name it yet, and don't scroll, because this is the quiet turning point where observation begins to soften into trust, where fear begins to loosen its grip, where love starts to feel less risky and more possible, and listen to this carefully, you are not being Tested to be hurt, you are being tested to be trusted, and trust is built not by proving love, but by embodying it calmly, consistently, and with integrity, and your heart needs this right now because integrity is what allows love to step forward without fear. And don't scroll, because even if you can't see the outcome yet, you can trust the process. Because the way you are showing up now is already answering the question your soulmate is afraid to ask, and that answer is not loud, but it is clear, and clarity is what ends every test meant to prepare love to last. Don't scroll, stay with me, because what I'm about to speak now is where the test begins to transform into something sacred, and your heart needs this right now even if you're tired of waiting, even if part of you is quietly asking how much longer uncertainty is meant to last, because this message is for you at a moment when love is no longer being measured, but felt, and listen to this carefully. Your soulmate is reaching the point where testing turns inward, where they stop watching you and start asking themselves harder questions, questions like, why does this connection feel different? Why do I feel calmer here instead of anxious? Why does the idea of losing this feel heavier than the fear of committing? And these questions are not small, they are life-altering, because once someone realizes that love feels safe, they can no longer pretend it doesn't matter. And your heart needs this right now because you may have felt a subtle shift, a softening, a warmth returning, even if words haven't caught up yet. And don't scroll, because this is the stage where love moves from evaluation into vulnerability, and vulnerability is always preceded by hesitation, not because love is weak, but because it is real. And listen to this, your soulmate has been sitting with moments of emotional truth they once avoided, moments where they admit to themselves that you matter more than convenience, more than comfort, more than old patterns. And that realization comes with weight. Because loving you means choosing growth instead of familiarity, courage instead of avoidance, and your heart needs this right now because you've chosen that path before without guarantees, and now someone else is standing at that same threshold. And don't scroll, because the universe is still guiding this process gently, not forcing decisions, but allowing awareness to mature. And awareness matures slowly, through repeated emotional experiences, through noticing that your presence doesn't drain them, doesn't pressure them, doesn't demand more than they can give. And listen to this carefully, love that feels safe does not rush people, it invites them to step forward willingly, and your heart needs this right now because invitation feels very different from persuasion. And real love is always an invitation. And don't scroll, because this phase is also about how your soulmate is feeling emotionally exposed in ways they didn't expect. They may be questioning their own reactions, wondering why your calm unsettles their old defenses, why your patience disarms their need to protect themselves. And listen to this, when defenses fall, fear rises briefly before peace takes its place. And that fear is not about you, it's about change, and your heart needs this right now because you've learned that fear often shows up right before transformation. And don't scroll, because this message is also about how you are being watched in a different way now, not to see if you fail, but to see if you remain the same, whether your kindness is consistent, whether your boundaries stay intact, whether your self-respect holds even when clarity is delayed. And listen to this carefully, consistency is the language of trust, and trust is the foundation your soulmate needs before stepping fully forward. And your heart needs this right now because you've always valued consistency over charm, and now that value is being recognized. And don't scroll, because angel numbers may still be appearing during this phase, not as urgency, but as reassurance. For 44, when you feel emotionally steady despite not knowing the outcome. 222, when balance feels fragile but present. 5. 55 When you sense that change is inevitable even if it's not immediate, and listen to this, these signs are the universe saying, stay aligned, stay grounded, stay true, because alignment is doing the work for you now, and your heart needs this right now because alignment requires trust, not control, and don't scroll, because this phase is also teaching you how to love without tension, how to hold space without shrinking yourself, how to remain open without being exposed, and listen to this carefully. These skills are not learned overnight, they are learned through exactly the kind of uncertainty you're navigating now, and your heart needs this right now because you are becoming someone who can hold a soulmate connection without losing balance, and don't scroll, because your soulmate is noticing that shift, noticing how you no longer react from fear, how you don't over-explain your worth, how you allow silence without interpreting it as rejection, and listen to this, that emotional maturity is deeply attractive because it signals safety, and safety is what allows love to deepen without panic, and your heart needs this right now because you've learned that love should not feel like a battlefield, and this one doesn't, even in its uncertainty, and don't scroll, because the universe is also asking you to remain present in your own life during this phase, not putting joy on hold, not pausing your growth, not making someone else's decision the center of your world, and listen to this carefully. Love that is meant to walk with you does not require you to stand still, it meets you while you are moving forward, and your heart needs this right now because motion keeps you aligned, and alignment invites clarity, and don't scroll, because this phase is also revealing how your soulmate feels when imagining life without you. That imagination has become heavier, less dismissible, and listen to this. When someone begins to feel the absence of something before it's gone, they are already attached in ways they can no longer deny, and your heart needs this right now because attachment formed through safety is far stronger than attachment formed through intensity, and don't scroll, because this message is also about releasing the urge to seek signs through action, not checking for proof, not testing their interest, not pulling away to see if they chase, and listen to this, soulmate love does not require games to survive. It requires truth to surface naturally, and your heart needs this right now because truth surfaces best in calm environments, not in emotional storms, and don't scroll, because your soulmate is also learning something critical during this phase, that love does not have to hurt to be meaningful, that closeness does not always come with loss of self, that choosing someone does not mean losing freedom, and listen to this carefully. These realizations are dismantling old beliefs that once kept them guarded, and dismantling beliefs takes time, but once dismantled, they cannot be rebuilt the same way, and your heart needs this right now because you are witnessing real change, not promises of change, and don't scroll, because this message is also preparing you for the subtle signs that the test is nearing its end, signs like more intentional communication, warmer consistency, emotional openness that doesn't retreat, and listen to this, these shifts won't arrive dramatically, they will arrive gently, because gentleness is the language of secure love, and your heart needs this right now because you are learning to recognize peace as attraction, not boredom, and don't scroll, because the universe is also reminding you that not all love stories begin with certainty, some begin with patience, discernment, and quiet trust, and listen to this carefully, those are the stories that last, because they are built on truth rather than illusion. And your heart needs this right now because you are no longer meant to chase love, you are meant to allow it, and don't scroll, because this phase is also asking you to honor your own worth without needing confirmation, to remember that you are lovable even in uncertainty, valuable even without reassurance, and listen to this, self-worth is the anchor that keeps love from becoming unstable, and your heart needs this right now because anchored people attract anchored love, and don't scroll. Because your soulmate is feeling that anchor in you, feeling that loving you would not mean emotional chaos, but emotional grounding, and listen to this carefully. Grounding is what allows love to step forward without fear, and your heart needs this right now because fear has already had enough influence in your past. And don't scroll, because this test is not endless, it is purposeful, and its purpose is to reveal whether love here feels safe enough to choose fully. And listen to this, that choice is forming quietly, even now, even if it hasn't been spoken yet, and your heart needs this right now because you are closer to clarity than you realize. And don't scroll, because this is the quiet assurance the universe wants you to receive today. You are not being tested to be exhausted, you are being tested to be trusted, and trust is built by staying grounded, authentic, and kind even when outcomes are unknown. And listen to this carefully, the way you are showing up right now is not being overlooked, it is being felt. And that feeling is reshaping someone's heart, dissolving fear, softening resistance, and preparing them to step forward with intention instead of hesitation. And your heart needs this right now because love that passes through patience arrives stronger, clearer, and more real. And you don't need to force the ending, because the ending will arrive naturally when the lesson is complete. And the lesson you are teaching without words is that love with you feels safe, steady, and worth choosing.